use headphones for best experience. Hi, before I go on, I just wanted to add one last city on this map, and that's the capital city of Tocantins state. And this capital is called Palmas, located in the middle here somewhere. Let's put it here. So this is Palmas. Can't believe I missed it in the last video. So finally here we have all the capitals, all the state and federal district of Brazil. And now, if you want to see the first part of this video, which I'm drawing this map, then check out the link down below in the description box. Now let's go on with part 2 of this video. Thanks for your fantastic support. So this was actually, I have to say, quite a challenge to get all these states right. And the 26 states and one federal district. I kept saying 26 states all the time, but they're like 27 if you also count the federal district, of course. But now we have our map, and I like to talk a bit about Brazil. It's a really interesting country, I think, both historically and the landscapes and the biodiversity and everything. I'm not sure exactly what I should talk about, but I have read a lot, and let's start with the nature, perhaps. Brazil can tell some more about it. So I have mentioned, of course, the Amazon rainforest here. The biggest rainforest in the world, and we have the highest mountaintop of Brazil here, just at the border between Venezuela and Brazil, the Roraima. No, sorry. It's not here, it's here. It's between the Amazon state and Venezuela. It's called Pico da Neblina. Highest mountain peak. And I read that it wasn't discovered until 1950s, because it's always like almost always covered in mist. And yeah, we have the Guiana Highlands here, the Brazil Highlands here, and Amazon Basin, and in between the island and the basin here we have a savanna called the Cerrado, where it's a lot of farming and ranches. And the southern part of the Cerrado we have the biggest, largest wetland area in the world, actually. It's called the Pantanal. It's a really interesting area. There are a lot of national parks around Brazil. I guess here you can visit this Pantanal. Of course you can visit it, but I mean there are national parks. Then we have, to the very south, there are grasslands. And these are actually like a part of the Pampas. It's both geographically and culturally close to Uruguay and Argentina. It's quite diverse from the rest of Brazil. You can see that on the map as well, that it's like there's no other place in Brazil this south. And also this state, the Santa Catarina, this state is Rio Grande do Sul. Here's Santa Catarina, and in this state, the Paraná, it's like the very high elevation, so it's not uncommon to see snow here, even in the capital, Curitiba. So it's the coldest state in Brazil. And yeah, I'm gonna mention some of the national parks. Like I said, this was the Iguazu River, and here, just at the border to Argentina. Argentina has a bit odd shape here, because this is Uruguay, and this is Paraguay, but then Argentina actually goes in a shape like this, like a panhandle. And here are the Iguazu Falls. I guess very beautiful and famous waterfalls, just at the border. And it's a national park called the Iguazu National Park. In Bahia, here somewhere inland, we have the Chapada Diamantina National Park. The area is famous for its large diamond finds in the 19th century. There were a lot of mining going on here from the 18th century, I guess, when that's also when the capital was moved from Salvador to Rio de Janeiro, because it was more close to the mines here, and Minas Gerais means I think it means like the general mines. So there were gold, like a gold rush in the 18th century, 19th century, also diamonds. So I guess that's why it's called Chapada Diamantina National Park. But here it's like very unusual rock formations, caves and lakes. The highest waterfall in the country, the Capoeira de Fumaça waterfall. And you can visit incredible blue waters of Poço Encantado and Poço Azul. So that's a quite famous national park as well. And Fernando de Noronha, this island, quite far from the mainland, out in the Atlantic Ocean. This is a marine national park with really beautiful beaches and a variety of marine wildlife, like sea turtles and dolphins and sharks. There are actually, I've heard that there are a lot of beaches with sharks. And I don't know what kind of sharks it is, and I hope it's they're not too dangerous in this area, this northeastern area. I can mention in Maranhão, the Lençóis Maranhenses National Park. It's a landscape composed almost entirely of sand dunes, with like a combination of sand dunes and water, so it's like water pools in the sand dunes. Sounds really cool. And in Ceará we have the Jericoacoara National Park, also famous for its beaches and sailing and windsurfing, things like that. Yeah, and in the wetlands here, the Pantanal, the national park is called the Pantanal Mato Grossense National Park. And there are also a lot of national parks where like really old cave paintings and rock paintings from like Stone Age, I guess. Yeah, I think that's some examples of the national parks. Let's zoom in a bit and we can talk about the history of Brazil. Or first, maybe I should show you something from an old atlas. This is a map of the age of the discovery, 1340 to 1600. Shows the sailing routes the Europeans who discovered this continent. And then, of course, before there were Native Americans living here. In Brazil, mostly the Tupi tribes, and also let's see, Tapuia tribes. I guess Tupi and Tapuia tribes were concentrated here to the coast, and also there were some hunter-gatherers tribes in more inland, and close to what's now Paraguay there were also Guarani tribes speaking the Guarani language. And that's a very interesting language because it's an official language in Paraguay today, spoken by very many people, and also in the southern states of Brazil. Still can hear Guarani being spoken, I guess. And there are a lot of tribes, I guess, in Rondonia. I think it's in Rondonia. There are like 21 different tribes today with their own languages, and even if they're related, I mean, but I guess the main groups here along the coast were as I said, the Tupi and Tapuia. Then when the story of modern Brazil started, it was in the late 1500s, after Columbus returned from his first voyage, 1493. Then actually this is really interesting and strange, but the Portuguese and the Spanish who have or it was the Spanish who had done most of these new discoveries, and then the Portuguese had mostly been sailing here around Africa and found the way to India, and they wanted to concentrate on the trading of spices here. So what they did was that they went to the Pope, and the Pope divided the earth into a Spanish and Portuguese part. So all land outside Europe would be either Spanish if it was west of this line, and Portuguese if it was east of this line. I guess first they drew the line here, and then 1 year after they decided to move it here. But the point is that this was before this piece of land was discovered, so they thought they drew a line in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So Spain would have all what would be found in the New World. This was called the New World, and Portugal would have all this. So that decision, I mean, a lot of history can be related to that decision today. But the thing was that Portuguese explorer Cabral, his name was Pedro Alvarez Cabral, by accident or not by accident, we aren't entirely sure, sailed and found this piece of coast here. And since it was on the east side of this line, called the Treaty of Tordesillas line, it could be called, because the treaty was called Treaty of Tordesillas. Then declared it for Portugal, and that's why Brazil today speak Portuguese, and the rest of or a very big part of the rest of South America speak Spanish today. But of course we have all the indigenous languages mixed today. Like Guarani, I mentioned before. So, I mentioned before the historically important city of São Vicente. That was actually the first city founded by the Portuguese, first permanent settlement in 1532. It was founded. It was before Sao Paulo. But the location where Cabral landed was here somewhere it's now Bahia, and it was called Porto Seguro. and all these cities along the coast have a lot of history of the early explorers and Portuguese settlers, and from the time when Brazil was a Portuguese colony, really long time. And also like Salvador was the main slave trading hub, so I mean, there were a lot of slave trading from Africa to Brazil for centuries, until finally 1888, when it was slavery was abolished. Not a single day too soon, of course. And so it's a lot of Afro-Brazilian culture here in Bahia, especially in Salvador. And Recife, north of Recife, it's another town called Olinda. It's also played an important role during this time. And actually, between 1630 and 1654, this was like Dutch Brazil, because then the Dutch tried to colonize this part that Portugal already had started to claim. And they named these cities in Dutch names, like Fredrikstad and Mauritsstad. Recife was called Mauritsstad. But it was a short history in Brazil, short part of Brazil's history. Here, close to French Guiana, actually used to be called Portuguese Guiana. Next to French Guiana here. And at some point they tried to secede from the Brazilian Empire and declared the Republic of Independent Guiana. But I guess it was never recognized as an independent state by either Brazil or France. But I've read that still some French Creole language are spoken here in Amapá. And also this very southern part, the Rio Grande do Sul, during a revolution I think it was during the same time as Texas. It was an independent state in 1835 to 1845. The Farroupilha Revolution, or Ragamuffin War. There were some. It was a revolt movement here. But it wasn't. It was never an independent state, I guess. Yeah, maybe I can show you the 15 colonies, the first colonies of Brazil between like when it was discovered or a few years after it was discovered. I guess the first years Portugal didn't pay much attention to Brazil at all, but then when the French came and tried to colonize it themselves, then the Portuguese started to send some people here and then sell pieces of like huge pieces of land to some elite in Portugal, and that became the first 15 colonies. So it was like plantation owners who had these pieces of land. It was Maranhão, it was Ceará, it was Rio Grande, Paraíba, something called Itamaraca, Pernambuco, and Bahia de Todos os Santos. I guess that must be around Salvador, because it's a bay here called Todos os Santos Bay. Ilhéus, Porto Seguro, the first place where Cabral landed, as I told you, and Espírito Santo, São Tomé, Rio de Janeiro, São Vicente, and Santo Amaro. And I also think that the island of São João was considered one of these 15 colonies. And then in the beginning it was Brazil wood that was exported from Brazil, because it was used in Europe for like a dye. They to get some kind of orange or red color on very expensive textiles. But then I guess they also exported sugar, and later gold and diamonds, and also rubber, coffee, a lot of things. But since it started with this Brazil wood, it gave its name to Brazil. So Brazil was a Portuguese colony in the 16th century, and the city of Salvador was founded in 1549 and was considered the capital for quite some time in this area. But then in 1763, after gold was found and all that, it moved to Rio de Janeiro, and that was the capital until 1960. Also, Rio de Janeiro was the capital of Portugal, actually, after or during the Napoleonic Wars, beginning of 19th century, because Napoleon invaded Portugal and the royal family fled to Brazil, or like settled here for a while. Between 1815 and 1822, this was the capital of the United Kingdom of Brazil, Portugal, and the Algarves. Algarves is the southernmost part of Portugal. I mean the Portugal on the Iberian Peninsula. But then after 1822, Brazil became an independent empire. So it was a monarchy for during a long time in the 19th century, and I guess that could be the reason why it's so big and large country today. because there were the Spanish colonies as well during this time, became independent, but they became republics, I guess, most of them. But Brazil was a monarchy, and that's probably why it was this empire, this huge empire, and it's now divided into separate states. But then in the late 19th century, 1889 I think, then there was like a revolution, and it became the first republic of Brazil. That was a bit of history of Brazil, and I'm really not an expert on this, so I put a link in the description to the videos I've seen, or some of the pages I visited, that where I got the information from. It was really interesting to learn about Brazilian history for this video. I must say I didn't know much at all. But I want to focus a bit now on this state, Bahia. And I want to talk about the music, because it's really interesting. Salvador, Bahia, Pernambuco as well, this whole area. Like I said, it was the main hub for the slave trade, and it's had a huge impact on Brazilian culture. It's like the Afro-Brazilian culture developed here, like the samba music and the rhythms that are like used in jazz. And there are some really interesting Brazilian sounds, beats. For example, Baião. I guess it means just that it is from Bahia. The Baião is a rhythm that is like a basic rhythm that also can be, you can hear it. It has influenced the Bossa Nova. Bossa Nova I find really interesting as well. It's like samba, but yeah, the samba rhythm derives from here. And the Bossa Nova was, I think it was invented in 1956. I read, maybe you can't like credit it to one person, but I read that João Gilberto like wrote the first Bossa Nova song in 1956 called Berimbau, and he recorded it in 1958, and it was released on his album. And I listened a lot to Astrud Gilberto when I was younger, and I remember this song, Berimbau. See if I can show you the rhythm. Then we can do some tapping as well, because yeah, these are my latest supporters on Patreon, PayPal, and Tingles. Thank you so much for your support. But I want to show you the Baião basics. So you use the tresillo rhythm. It's like 4 beats and one. I will do it in like 2 hands, like 4 beat combined with the 3 beat tresillo. And I guess the Baião is basically this rhythm. used so much in Latin music today. It's have a huge influence on modern music and jazz music and everything. There were actually this song called Berimbau. It's not easy to talk and concentrate on the rhythm. So João Gilberto, he was, I guess he was from Bahia, and he created this Bossa Nova, meaning the new, or the new trend or something it can be translated into. So he took the samba basic rhythms, but made it much more simple, so no percussion, not all these drums and things, just like guitar and song. It's like downscaled, and I think it's very suitable for ASMR perhaps. If there's one music style you listen to, maybe it could be Bossa Nova, if you want to just relax and sleep. I'm listening to João Gilberto lately, and it's really relaxing actually. So Berimbau or something like this. Bim bom bim bim bom bom bim bom bim bim bom bim bom bim bom bim bim bom bom bim bom bim bim bom bim bim. It's always on me by now. I know too much now, I don't know. Oh my corazón, open your machine. So bim bom bim bim bom bom bim bom bim bim bom bim bom. And this beat, this Bayao beat, has been a huge influence on all Latin music, and yeah, I guess jazz and Bossa Nova, and also this Capoeira martial art, dance, that is also from this area, Bahia area. It originates from there, and also when you accompany this dance or martial art, then you often use the music instrument Berimbau, that I also find very interesting. I listened to a song by sung by Astrid Gilberto when I was young a lot. I liked it. It was called Berimbau. I didn't know what that meant then, but it's actually a music instrument that I think could originate from Western Africa. I don't think it's completely sure where it comes from, but it's a very special instrument that you use especially for the Capoeira, and its music is often based on the Bayao. And the Berimbau is a music instrument that I think looks very funny, and it sounds really funny. It's super interesting. It's try to draw it here, like a bow and arrow in a way, with a really flexible stick and a wire, steel wire, and then you also have a stone called toprai, and a stick called baqueira, and quite often also something that me think of a maracas. It's a percussion instrument called the cachichi. And I almost forgot that it's a fruit attached here. Dried and hollowed out fruit. A special fruit called cabasa or calabasa. Some kind of gourd fruit. And you like put it close to, or you put it to your chest to give it resonance. And you have to deal with all these 4 parts just to play, like, it's just possible to play what I've heard 2 different tones. Dun, 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 dun. But also you can make some variation with some buzzing sound, and also some variation with the, like a wah-wah effect, I think, with this cabasa. So this is the Berimbau. I think it's super interesting music instrument. And yeah, I guess the Bossa Nova and the samba rhythms derives from Baião and the music played with the Berimbau. So Bossa Nova sound could be typically like this, or like very nice rhythm. And nowadays it's like sometimes called elevator music, like The Girl from Ipanema. It's a really famous song by João Gilberto and Astrid Gilberto Stanget. But I guess it's a bit unfair to call it elevator music, because by the time it was written, it was a huge hit, I think, and also like a really good pop song hit during the 60s, early 60s. And maybe I'll do a short extra bonus video about that song, Girl from Ipanema, I think. I'd like to do that. I've started to listen to all these songs again now after many years. I haven't paid it any attention. It's like João Gilberto, Astrid Gilberto Stanget, and the album Gets Gilberto from 1963. It's a really nice album, and it's so like laid back music, and it's elevator music often it's not made with so much heart and warmth like these original songs was when they were recorded. So it's definitely more than elevator music, I have to say. You should listen to it if you're interested. The last thing I'd like to talk about and also make some more drawing is the flag of Brazil. This is also something I found super interesting when I started to read about it. So the flag of Brazil consists of 3 or 4 colors. It's green, yellow, blue and white. And the middle is a circle or a sphere. And blue. And this flag has been used since 1889, when the first Republic of Brazil was founded after the Brazilian Empire. And it's been some variation. It really resembles the United States flag, because I'll show you later, but it's considering the number of stars will represent the number of states and federal districts that make Brazil today. So as the states have been more has been added, then they've had to add another star on the flag. But the stars I will add at the end. Can zoom in a bit. I can't help but think about football when I see this flag. It's like a football ground is green and yellow somehow, and the football like in the sky, blue football. That's what I see. Here it says Ordem Progresso. Ordem Progresso. Order and progress. And now to the really interesting part, the stars. So it's one star here, north of, if you consider this as the equator of the globe, then it's one star north of it. And since there are 27 states and federal districts in Brazil, there will be a total of 27 stars. And they are located in a really interesting pattern, because it's like star constellations from the southern, visible from the southern hemisphere mostly. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26, 27, the first two I was drawing. And now let's see if I can get this right. But this star represents the state of Pará. It's a state that the equator is crossing. So part of Pará is located in the northern hemisphere. So I guess that's why they ordered like this. And it's also represent the bright star Spica in the sky. And here we have a star representing Procyon in the sky, and it represents the state of Amazonas. And then we have the Canis Major constellation, or the Great Dog. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, and they represent the states of the northwest. So I guess it's Roraima, Amapa, Rondonia. That's 3. Yeah, Tocantins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can just see 4 states here, but maybe if I continue I can see what the 5th state would be. Because then we have the star of Canopus, and that star is representing the Goyas state. Here we have a small star, but it's actually the South Pole star that all the other stars are circling around in the night sky, the southern hemisphere. And that small star is actually representing the Federal District in Brasilia. Here we have the constellation, the Southern Cross, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. And this constellation represents the states of Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Bahia, Minas Gerais and Espírito Santo. So it's the states in the southeast basically, but also Goiás and also Bahia. And these two stars are quite far from each other. They represent the constellation Hydra and the states Acre and Mato Grosso do Sul. Yeah, so one of these 5 must be Mato Grosso as well. I think so. I'm not completely sure. And then there are 3 stars here representing the South Triangle constellation, Southern Triangle. So 3 states should be attached to these stars in the flag. And now let's see, it's Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina and Paraná. So it's the southern states. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stars in the Scorpio constellation. And that's the small states in the northeast. It's Maranhão, Piauí, Ceará, Rio Grande do Norte, Paraíba, Pernambuco, Alagoas, and Sergipe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So that's what these stars actually represent. It was so cool, I had no idea before I read about it on Wikipedia. So we have the flag, we have the Berimbau, we have the supporters, my latest supporters. I want to give a special thanks to. And we have the map of Brazil. It's been really fun to do this video, and really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more map drawing videos. Also, you can check the description box to this video if you want to see more my older map drawing videos. There are quite a few now, quite a lot of them. I have a list there, so thanks for your support, thanks for watching, and